Zambia, some communities like Kanyama and Co are experiencing dire effects of climate change. And it's important that we appreciate the matter on climate change, appreciating how it affects everyone, gender-wise, and also in terms of capacities. And also, be able to see how many ways we could also mitigate climate issues from the community level, bringing in stakeholders like government, private sector, and even academia into the core. And that's why I have today with me Emmanuel N.A. Taye, who is a research officer at the Center for Biodiversity Conservation, University of Ghana, with me. Emmanuel, you're welcome to Hello Africa.
Thank you very much, sir.
Great. How are you feeling today?
I'm good, just a little sad. Looking at the rains yesterday, the devastation that was caused, the lives that were affected, properties lost, it saddens me a little bit, yeah.
That's sad.
Well, not a little bit, it really, really saddens me.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So, Africa is found to be quite vulnerable to climate change and its effect. In your experience as a researcher, how do we explain this vulnerability? We want to appreciate how vulnerable are we to climate change?
Well, we are very vulnerable. So when we look at the context of vulnerability, we are looking at how people are susceptible to the shocks or the impacts of climate change. And local communities, particularly in some of our rural areas, are very, very vulnerable. In the cases of extreme weather patterns like drought and rainfall, which causes flooding, they are among the most vulnerable people because, first of all, they have nothing to fall back on. So we have rural communities like Bipe. Whenever it rains and the white and black voters get flooded, thousands of people have to be moved to nearby areas. This disrupts their lifestyle. Economic activities have to come to a halt. Even schooling, children cannot go to school. There's a lot of different ways in which such climate patterns affect people. Looking at it from even healthcare. Healthcare in itself, we have recently heard of hospitals getting flooded.
Yeah.
Imagine you have somebody in an ICU and then the hospital is flooded. Like, how do you go about it? So these are challenges that need to be addressed. We need to find some lasting solutions to these ones.
Yeah, talking about lasting solutions. Today we're hearing climate adaptation. We're hearing climate resilience.
Yes.
So when you put together adaptation resilience, that means perhaps we are not mitigating 100%, but we're trying to live with the flow. How is it working for you?
Well, so if you look at resilience, you're looking at how to identify that you're vulnerable, adapt to the vulnerability, and then try to improve your susceptibility so that you are no more as vulnerable as you were previously. The sad truth is that our climate is changing. And the reality is that there's little we can do to address these changes. It's going to be a very long-term agenda to address these changes. So what we can do is to try and manage the situation at the moment, because lives are being lost, property is being destroyed. So we need to have a way of addressing these challenges in the interim whilst we look for lasting solutions. So one of the ways we can do that is to, for instance, if you look at food security, farming communities sometimes lose entire harvest. How can we ensure that they don't lose these harvests? A lot of them only plant during the rainy season, and that is when flooding occurs. So we can provide equipment, irrigation equipment for them so they can farm during the dry season. And then when it's raining or during the rainy season, they can allow the land to follow. Yes, so these are some of the things we can do in the interim to help some of the communities. At the same time, we ourselves are also contributing to this menace. If you look, even in Accra, a lot of our wetlands that are natural sponges for flood waters have been destroyed, degraded. People are using them as waste areas. People are building in them, people are draining them. So these natural features of the landscape that are supposed to help us, we are destroying them. And that is why, in most cases, we experience a lot of flooding in places in Accra, especially where flooding historically did not occur. So we are part of the problem. So we need to address our contribution to the problem. Then we can look at the global picture.
And that also helps us to appreciate your contribution to the issue of climate adaptation research through your project, which is on Clear, Ture
Yeah.
Pomoja.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us about Ture Pomoja and how it is able to now create that solution for climate adaptation here in Ghana and
All right,
Africa.
so the project we are running under the CLARE program is the AFSTEC project.
Okay, okay,
So basically, the project is addressing climate vulnerability
okay,
for communities in riparian and wetland areas
great.
through nature-based solutions.
Okay,
So we are not coming with hard, concrete measures. We are using nature-based solutions. So if you look at places along the White Volta where flooding occurs, how can we employ scientific knowledge and then traditional ecological knowledge, put them together to find solutions to the flooding issue? So some of the areas you realize that they are bare. So planting some trees along the riverbanks will help keep the soil structure intact. The trees will also serve as windbreaks, will also serve as more like a fence to help slow down the water before it gets to the communities. So these are some nature-based solutions that we are exploring. And like I mentioned earlier, some of the communities only plant during the rainy season. So during interactions with them, we have carried out some reconnaissance visits to the communities, to the Wild West districts in the Upper West region, to the Talensi district in the Upper East. We've been to the Northern region, we've been to the Northeast region as well. So during our interactions, we realized that they only plant in the rainy season. Some of them have irrigation equipment so they can plant in the dry season. So as part of the project to help them become more adaptive, we are looking at ways of improving or contributing for them to have a community-owned irrigation system. That way they can plant during the dry season, and then when it's raining, they don't have to plant where, there's a likelihood of their whole harvest getting destroyed.
splendid.
Yeah.
So that's Aztec, right?
AFSTEC.
Aztec.
Yeah, so
Splendid.
hyphen STEC.
Great. And that is also a very amazing community strengthening
Exactly.
role to ensuring that we are adaptive and resilient to climate change.
Yes.
And online is another colleague who is a researcher with the Association of Commonwealth Universities, Dr. Lorraine Dongo. Can you hear me, Lorraine?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. You're welcome to Hello
Thank you.
Africa.
Thank you very much. Good to have
Great.
to be.
Sure. So Emmanuel just told us about, their approach to climate adaptation research and AFSTEC through the community strengthening approaches, and you're also on COCAT. Tell us about it. Quite an iconic name, COCAT. What about it and how has it contributed to climate adaptation research?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, our project is COCAT. That's the short name. It's a climate-focused organization capacity assessment tool. And within our project, we are targeting universities and research institutions in the African region. And why we have decided to focus on them is the understanding that and the understanding and the belief that these institutions matter as far as climate adaptation research is concerned. They are leading the research that is happening as far as building resilience, adaptation issues. And as central organizations in this space, it is important that we understand what is really going on as far as their capacity is concerned. There are many capacity issues that they are facing, and there isn't a platform where such issues can be discussed. And there isn't a platform where even capacity issues themselves are being understood within these institutions, but also externally. So the idea around CORECAT is to have this tool which we are going to co-create with these stakeholders within research institutions and universities, a tool that is going to be used to assess and to understand the capacity issues. Where are the gaps? Where are the strengths? And how do we need to, fill the gaps, push so that we maintain the strengths and build more resilience as far as research is concerned. So it's a tool that we hope we co-create, we put in these institutions, they use it as a pilot, then we come back, we refine the tool and hopefully, spread it more widely. So really that's how we are trying to build capacity around research institutions and university in the region around climate research adaptation, which is key to building resilience in the long term.
Splendid. It feels so good to appreciate that you are all trying to support climate adaptation research,
Yeah.
but through different approaches. But let's try and then identify the uniqueness of your approaches. So with AFSTEC,
Yeah.
give us some unique, outstanding lines that differentiate your project, and
Yeah.
we look forward to see the effectiveness of.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, we are just like the COCAT project. We are looking at co-creating the solutions with not just the scientific community, but with the communities.
Okay.
Yeah, so we want solutions that they can identify with, solutions that they can co-own. So when you go to a community that has been selected under the AFSTEC project and you ask them why they are doing something, they can tell you that, oh, we realize that this is the best solution for the problems we have. And by so doing, each community will have a different approach to the challenges that they face. So, for instance, if you go to the Nungu community, one of the most affected areas, their farmlands and settlements are both affected because they are very close to the river. So the interventions in such a community will be different from a different community. Now, under the AFSTEC project, we have different teams and centers. So the CBCR, the Center for Biodiversity Conservation Research, is one. We also have a team from Burkina Faso, Naturama. So it's actually a transboundary project because we are looking at the impacts of the Bagri Dam in Burkina Faso. The impacts are felt in Burkina Faso and Ghana. So we have a team from there that are also co-creating with their local communities, whilst we co-create with our local communities. And we have the START International Center that is leading the capacity strengthening aspect of it. So we are going to train people in alternative livelihoods. So for instance, those that are dependent on only farming, after the dry season farming, when it's flooded, what other things can they do to improve their livelihoods and not just sit at home and wait for the floods to dissipate, right? And then we have York International, who are also leading the charge when it comes to the human aspect of it. Because in as much as we are scientists, there's a human aspect to climate change. So how do we make it more humane? Because we can go and say, for instance, globally, we have certain climate targets, but how does it translate to the local community? They don't understand all of the technical words. So we have teams that would break it down to their level. So that's one of the unique things, the fact that we have different teams coming together to co-create and then to find solutions to these projects. We also have a science team that are looking at climate modeling, using GIS information, using climate information to model how things have been in the past, how things are right now, and then make projections into the future. And based on some of those projections, we know how to tackle the situation right now so that we can manage or steer the situation in a way that is more favorable. So these are unique key points of this project.
Amazing. And let me just also share that with Lorraine as well. So Lorraine, can you share with us some of the unique factors around the COCAT project that everybody needs to know about?
Thank you for that question. One of the key things that is really unique about COCAT is the methodology that we are using. So you can imagine, as a project, it's a partnership project. We are aiming to work across the African region. What could be the best way to approach this? So we are using labs approach. We are calling it a virtual lab approach. And what do we mean by that? Virtual, we are operating in the virtual space. So we are going to be using an online platform where we are bringing together different stakeholders from different institutions across the region. In this space, which we call the Living Lab space, that's where the conversations are going to happen. That's where the co-creation is going to happen. That's where those interact in a way that allows everyone who is in that space really on the different elements around capacity strengthening. So that's something that is very unique. And why is that unique? Because we are not using sort of traditional assessments of assessing capacity. Often you find that with such work, we could bring in consultants, we could bring in, let's say, scientists, and that methodology often is very much, top down. But what we're trying to do here is to come up to use this space as a bottom up approach where we have different stakeholders. It's going to be participatory, it's going to be iterative, and it's very much action oriented, and it's going to be live and living lab because it's going to be going on and action oriented 24/7, if you want to put it that way. So whatever information we're going to capture in that space will remain there, and we'll continue to use it and to develop it as the project progresses, but even beyond the project. So that's a good co-creating space for us, which we thought we could use and allow people to participate from different parts of the African region. You can imagine with such a project, trying to do this in person will be very difficult because we have 50 plus countries in the region. It will be very difficult for us to bring different stakeholders in one space in person. But this virtual space is allowing us to be participatory, iterative, and action oriented.
And let's just take this one line of question and to wrap up. With you, Emmanuel, let it help us appreciate at this moment of AFSTEC, where are you and what are you heading towards in terms of your itinerary with AFSTEC?
Yes, so AFSTEC is actually one of the recent or new projects under the CLARE program. So we started early this year. So we've done our initial inception meetings, bringing teams from around the world. We had that meeting somewhere last month in Tamale, where we had people from Burkina Faso, Senegal, and then Canada from the York University. And then our local team of researchers and scientists came together to brainstorm and then forge a way forward. So we are through with that. We have also done the reconnaissance service, visited the communities, and then using a set of criteria, selected the most vulnerable communities that are in need of intervention right now. So now that we have all of that sorted, the next step is to go with our researchers to these communities and then now do in-depth analysis of the problems. After that, we have the stakeholder engagements with them, local leaders, chiefs, traditional rulers, opinion leaders in the various communities to develop the solutions. So these are the activities that we'll be doing going forward. At the same time, the climate modeling is also ongoing as part of the capacity strengthening process. We are looking at engaging students from various universities, both undergrad, postgraduate, and postdocs, to develop projects under the AFSTEC project. So these will also be assigned to scientists and researchers who will be supervising this project. By so doing, we are developing the capacity of other younger scientists within the climate space. So these are the activities that we'll be doing going forward. And then hopefully by the end of this year, we should have some preliminary findings, and then the interventions can begin.
Amazing. And to you, Lorraine, what are some of the next steps for the COCAT project?
We are currently recruiting stakeholders to participate in the Living Lab that I just spoke about earlier, and our call has already gone out. Look out for that on our website and on various platforms that are related to the project partners. And the call is out there to invite anyone who is really interested and willing to push this agenda around climate adaptation research. And we want as many stakeholders as we can, not only from these universities and research institutions, but also stakeholders from policymakers, non-governmental organizations, even the individual researchers themselves, as my colleague was just talking about, how they are building some postgraduate students. We want different type of stakeholders. So the call is out there. Once we get responses, we are going to select because unfortunately we can only work with a limited number of stakeholders in this Living Lab space. And when we have selected the stakeholders, we will then do the onboarding process We'll train them around this living lab approach so that everyone has a clear understanding of this methodology so that we can all be in that space and co-create confidently. Once we have co-created the tool through the various discussions, we will then use those same stakeholders through their institutions to go back and pilot that initial tool. The idea is that we want to test out this tool as a solution, find out, what are the strengths of the tool, where do we need to improve, what are the real issues, because remember, adaptation has to respond to lived experiences. So it's our way of engaging with these institutions and universities in a very real way. The same stakeholders will then come back to the living lab, then we will refine that tool, and eventually we will distribute it more widely. We are also hoping, in between the co-creation, the piloting, the refining, to hold workshops in about 3 African countries. We will announce these countries. These workshops are also going to inform this capacity strengthening tool, the COCAT itself. So we will also be then engaging different stakeholders in this process. And we'll also be running webinars and workshops online through the Climate Clear Exchange platform. We'll also be advertising that. These are some of those next steps that we are working on at the moment, Ajiman, as far as the COCAT project is concerned.
Thank you so much, Lorriane Dongo, and also thank you very much, Emmanuel, for your assistance on the show and helping us to appreciate the CLARE project funded by the UKF CDO and IDRC. Go for a short break, right back. Stay tuned.